It's FoosTalk Live.
You talking to me?
Compelling and lively banter.
Are you going to talk to us?
Talking foosball.
Foosball was how I measured my value as a man. You took that away.
Players and fans, promoters and pros. Unedited and raw.
Talk.
Living in the moment.
We have a lot of important things to talk about.
All while practicing social distancing.
Cool. We'll talk. No big whoop.
Let's get this thing started. FoosTalk Live. Coming to you live from the studios of Foosball Radio and inside Foos TV, it's the 40th episode of FoosTalk Live. Brought to you in part by 518 Prints, one of the best printers of promotional items, t-shirts, jackets, hoodies, and foosball apparel. Visit 518prints.com today. Brought to you in part by Foosballers the Movie. Download your copy of this Joe Heslinga documentary at foosballersthemovie.com. FoosTalk Live also brought to you in part by Foosball Clubs USA, promoting foosball through school systems all over the country. Visit foosballclubsusa.com and make a donation today. And brought to you by the United States Table Soccer Organization, the USTSO, helping to usher in a new era of competitive foosball. Become a member and register at usafoosball.com. Welcome back to FoosTalk Live. I'm Tom Robinson, ready to spend the next couple of hours engaging in some lively banter about the great sport of foosball. And now with his birthday celebrations finally behind him, at least for this year, we're once again happy to return to the world of the greatest foosball play-by-play announcer back for us this 40th episode from the great state of Colorado. Please welcome back Jim Stevens. Hello, Jim.
Hi, Tom. Hi, everybody. 40, number 40 here
40.
tonight. It's great to be here in the middle of winter, a little snowy here in Colorado, a little cool, but warming up this evening, of course, as we always do, for a great show at FoosTalk Live, and hoping to be joined here soon by our partner, Mark Torres, as well, who looks like he's going to be in a little late tonight, but he'll be here, I think.
He's forgiven. We'll let that go this time, but just don't make a habit out of it, Mark. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, so how was your birthday? Tell me how to go. Did anybody give you anything unique this year?
Unique, I don't know about that. I got the usual clothes and a few other things like that. But I got to spend some time with the family. Had a nice dinner, had a very nice day. Went out and got out in nature. It was a beautiful 45-degree day.
Oh, nice.
Here in Durango. And so got out, went out and looked at some birds, some bald eagles, and
nice.
Walked down by the river. We have a river that flows through town here, so it was a really, really nice day.
Very cool. Now, when it comes to your favorite, shall we say, meal for a birthday, is there something you choose typically? Is there like steak or I don't know, something you don't ordinarily eat that you like to have for your birthday?
Well, yes, usually, of course, with this year's difficulties, of course, getting out to a good restaurant is difficult to do.
Yeah.
But generally, I'm like a surf and turf guy. I love a good fillet and a lobster tail.
Okay.
Absolutely. Although a nice ahi steak, a seared ahi steak, is also one of my favorites. And so,
nice.
Last week we just did we did a chicken with all the fixins, and it was very nice.
Okay, awesome. I guess it only makes sense at this point to ask you: did you get a chance to celebrate with an adult beverage, perhaps?
Well, of course I did. Yeah, of course. I had a couple of very nice double IPAs and that I got down at our local LQ.
Okay.
And so did enjoy a couple of those and sip them, of course, as we do with our double IPAs. But a really, really nice day, nice week as well. Although we've had a couple of feet of snow here in Durango this week, kind of digging out on several of these days.
Yeah.
And I know you've had some your winter issues as well up there and
it's
the foothills of the Adirondacks. But
it's funny how we got really our Christmas gift of 3 feet of snow like a week before Christmas, and then of course once Christmas happened and New Year's. It's really kind of just a dim remnant now. It's about, there's still maybe a half a foot on the lawn, but it's a distant memory now. So, but you got 2 feet. 2 feet.
We did. We got quite a bit here this week, and more coming still. And one thing we'll touch on, of course, as many of you saw the advertisement, the promotion that we would have the great Johnny Horton on this week, which all of us were looking forward to, no question about it. I mean, when you're talking about your best possible guests, he's right there at the top or near the top of the list.
Yep.
One of the most dynamic players ever. One of the most, really, when people look back over the last 30, 40 years, I don't know that there's been a more entertaining player. In fact, I think he was at the top of our list when we did the most entertaining or best showman earlier this year.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
I mean,
it would have been nice to have him, but apparently he's going to try to drop in next week.
okay. I mean, he's quintessential. There's no question about that. And we will persevere. As much as he persevered on the table, we will persevere to get Johnny Horton on. There's no doubt about that. We want him. We wish him well. We wish that he feels better very, very soon, and that we can get together and do this for sure. But Jim,
Yeah.
I
Yep.
think we did pretty good this week. I think this is going to be a very entertaining 40th episode, if you
I
don't
think
mind me
so.
saying. I in fact I'm quite certain of it. Chris Dube.
Yeah, I think so. We were
yeah,
lucky enough, kind of last minute, to get the great Chris Dube. Little Kato is his wrestling name. A
right.
professional wrestler for many years, and a U.S. Open champion. Great player, originally out of the state of California, Northern California, up in Mark Torres country.
Yep.
And I met him when he was very young. I first started playing against Chris Dube in the early 1980s. A fiery player. I don't know if
Right.
you've ever seen him play, but the great pull kick, really a booming pull kick. And again, a U.S. Open champion. And I remember that weekend up in Minneapolis in
hmm
1994
Okay.
when he and his partner Merv Schrock defeated Dave Gummison and Steve Modes. And it was really an amazing performance by
No
him
kidding.
and his partner Merv Schrock.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, we will be hearing some things about that this evening, I'm sure, and of course, Chris will
Mhm.
probably recount what that was like for him. But yeah, I'm psyched. I think we're going to have ourselves a blast here. But of course, in order to make this, shall we say, move smoothly as a show, we always have to have our typical social lubricant. So if you are prepared. What Jim and I like to do right about this time is to reveal our favorite IPA. And so, did you hang on to any of the IPAs you had last week, or you got something new for us this week?
No, I've got something new. It's out of the state of Colorado. It's out of Denver. Now, the Great Divide Brewery. It's the Titan IPA, the big aggressively
Titan.
hopped India Pale Ale. And beginning with piney hop aromas and citrus hop flavors, and finishing with a rich malty taste. 7.1% alcohol. Let's have a sip of it. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. Sounds delicious. Which, of course, when it comes to a good double IPA, you have yours in a snifter, I assume.
Of course I
Yes.
did. These days I drink every IPA in a snifter, and I just enjoy drinking it in a snifter. Now, what are you having tonight?
I'm staying in the great Northeast, if you don't mind. Headed across the border here to Vermont, right next door to Burlington, Vermont. Great town. They've got a great brewery there called Switchback IPA. I'm sorry, it's Switchback Brewing Company, but they make a Switchback IPA. And of course, Switchback is kind of a skiing term, I guess. Switchback. Anyway, Switchback is generously hopped with Centennial, Chinook, Cascade, and Simcoe. I guess that's the ingredients there. 5.9% alcohol by volume. Okay, there's the top. Here's the sip. Okay, now this is a first for me, but I gotta say it'd be worth a trip just to go there to Switchback Brewery in Vermont to have this fresh for sure. Yes, very, very nice. Like it a lot.
They do nice work. They do very nice work. Those craft breweries in the Northeast, in New England, and really a lot of the mountains. Of course, that's kind of, excuse me.
Yeah,
that is
okay.
That's mountain country up there, and they really make some nice beer. I've had several from that region that have been excellent.
Right. Yeah, we're I think we're lucky. We're on either side of the country, and we both have access to these wonderful IPAs. Last week, actually, because you missed it, there's something referred to as Common Brew or Common Grounds. They're actually just about 20 minutes from my door, and I had their IPA, and it was really nice. It was really good. Yeah. Anyway, it's great, so we can do some exploring when it comes to that. And I think as time progresses and we get a chance to actually do the show in person, together, well, we'll just have to do something special when it comes to IPAs. So without further ado, since we have our IPAs open, let's make our toast to our group of the week. The group of the week. Now, these guys, they have a special place in everyone's heart when it comes to foosball because they're so active and so busy promoting foosball, especially with the young kids, the next generation. And that would be Foosball Clubs USA. So Foosball Clubs USA, you are the honor group of the week. John O'Brien and the rest, thank you so much for what you do. Here's to you.
Here's to you guys. Great job by John O'Brien. Of course, things have been a little bit slow as far as after-school programs for the last year, but
Yeah.
John, I know, is ready. The entire crew there at Foosball Clubs USA ready to get things going once we are allowed to, and really ramp it up. And as you said, Tom, this is where we are going to get our players. This is the future of foosball. And not only that, it's just good for the kids. It's really good for
Right.
them to be able to play after school, at lunch. Maybe they can't be football, basketball, or baseball players, but anybody can be a foosball player. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's real. It's not a tablet. It's not a video game.
Oh,
And it's great
it's
for the kids, and great to know that John O'Brien continues to do such an extraordinary job
yeah, and
helming the Foosball Clubs USA.
it's great for focus, just learning to focus and be in the moment. It just has that kind of appeal, and I think that certainly Foos Clubs USA understands all the benefits that go with this game, and looking forward to seeing a whole lot more of the younger players out there on the tour very, very soon. It's kind of like we're all itching at the switch now. We just want to step out there. I know that Florida State's is supposed to take place, and then the tour kickoff. Anything else happening that you can see on the docket, Jim?
Nothing, of course. April really is when some of the bigger events start to kick in. Las Vegas, which is still iffy. Everything is kind of iffy these days. But the early April for that one, and the Moneyball event up in the Pacific Northwest scheduled towards the end of April. But really, we're still sort of in a holding pattern in many ways.
Sure.
Nothing international yet, of course, and so it's wait and see. Take it one day at a time.
Yeah.
And eventually we will get back out on tour, and we'll get back better than ever.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think we're it's just waiting for the word go when you can basically do this in a safe way that everybody can say, you know what, it's going to be. Here's the funny thing, and I've heard this a few times from various sources, but people are thinking, they're looking back to 1918 when the Spanish flu pandemic was really devastating. And of course, it went on for several years, 2-3 years. And once it finally subsided and people could safely once again gather, the Roaring Twenties occurred. That era where people were just having a blast, dancing and singing, and just this shall we say, pent up desire to celebrate and do things that were fun. And I have a feeling we're going to do the
Yes.
same thing this time. It's
Yeah,
going
I
to
mean, the Roaring Twenties immediately followed that, right? So,
yeah,
and so maybe we're in for a decade like that. Hopefully, it doesn't end as poorly as that decade did.
right.
But there are similarities, of course. We were less prepared back then. We didn't really know what was happening exactly
Mhm.
back in 1918, and something like 18 or 20 million people
Right.
passed because of that
Oh,
worldwide.
it's extraordinary.
Devastating. And so, but yeah, we're all chomping at the bit. We're all ready to get back out there. And I know some of you are going to be getting back out there as soon as next week
Yeah.
at the TKO. Unfortunately, we will not be able to make it for this one this year. We're going to miss it for the first time in about 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
But we'll have announcements soon about what our 2021 schedule, at least the tentative schedule, is looking like for Inside Foods.
Right. So listen
We'll be
to
back. I
listen to
promise you.
this space. We'll be the first ones to be on top of whatever happens when it happens, for sure.
Yes,
So
we will.
yeah, looking forward to it. Well, we do have some great moments from the past we can celebrate. In fact, I think that people will be interested to know, because we have Chris Dube, a little Kato on this evening. Let's listen back to what happened back in 1994 with great moments in foosball history. This is a FoosTalk Live Flashback.
Moves now, possession, looking to pass it through, angle up pass, almost stolen right to the 3 of Dube, but he couldn't hold on. Here's Dave Gummonson once again. He scored from this position last time he had the ball. Taking lots of time. Gummonson with an effort down the middle. It's stolen away by Dube. He once again has a chance to win the title.
Dave had a lot of trouble there. He was about to lose the ball, run out of time, and had to do something quick.
Here's Chris Dube. Strokes it down the middle. And the 1994 United States Open champions are Chris Dube and Merv Schrock.
Wow, and a well-earned team, I'll tell you. They're all fired up. They're happy to have been in the finals, and they just ripped apart the team with Steve Nash and Dave Gummonson. Well-deserved, Chris Dube and Merv Schrock.
What a story.
Listen in next time for another great moment in foosball history. It's FoosTalk Live Flashback. And what a moment it was. Wow, 1994. And what a spectacular finish there for Chris Dube. So Jim, what are your recollections of that moment?
Well, it's 27 years ago almost now. It was April of 1994. And in 1994, you had so many great players. Terry Moore was on the rise, of course. Todd Lafredo was still a factor, a strong factor, and still is a factor today, I suppose. But Dave Gummison, Steve Mose, the team they were going up against. I mean, the tour was loaded with great players.
Mm-hmm.
And really, as good as Chris Dube was, as good of a defensive player as Merv Schrock, good of goalie as he was, no one really expected them to do what they did. And so, not that it was shocking because these are two outstanding players,
Sure.
but it was a surprise and it was really compelling to watch it happen. I mean, Doobie was celebrating after every shot, and if you've ever seen Chris Doobie play, it's a different kind of game. It's a pull kicker,
Yeah.
and it's exciting. It's bigger than life, and it really was that weekend as well. It's one of the more memorable tournaments, certainly in my career. And one of the more surprising results, I have to say, despite the fact, as we said, that Chris Doobie, Merv Shock, outstanding players, but
Sure.
that tour,
Sure.
1994, was just so strong.
Yeah, no, this is truly a spectacular moment, and it's the kind of thing that back in those days it seemed like this kind of events. It was much more intense, much more dramatic. Although, or maybe we're looking at through the prism of the past. I don't know, but it just seems that way. Would that be true?
Yeah. Yeah, I think to some degree there's some truth to that for sure. And I think conditions were different. It just was a more competitive era for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just very compelling.
Yeah.
Still no Mark Torres here tonight. I was thinking, we've got a top five,
Oh, sure.
ready. Although I don't know that I should do it myself, so maybe we can
Well,
wait for him. But I was thinking maybe we could take a call from a listener, or even some questions on the Podbean app. If anybody'd like to type in any questions, ask us anything here for a little bit. What do you think,
sure.
Tom?
Yeah, I think if
Uh,
if you're
Let's
interested,
kill a little
yeah,
time before Mark gets here.
there are certainly those moments. We invite you anytime actually to call in and just give us your thoughts on what's happening, and maybe you have a question you'd like to ask Chris Doobie prior to our interview this evening. If you'd like to know what that might be, you could type it in, or you could also call us at the same time. That would be awesome. We greatly appreciate that. But Jim, if you'd like, I mean, if Mark is unable to make it for the top five, we could always hear yours if you'd like. Or is that
We could. I'd say
Yeah.
let's give Mark a little time. It's certainly
Okay.
much more interesting to have us both go at it.
Sure? Understood. I know it's the
Yeah, I
competition.
am getting questions out here though. Here's a question here
Okay.
from Joseph Raymond too. Jim, are you a certified ref? I am
Certified
not
ref.
a certified ref.
Oh.
I am an anti-ref. I mean, I love referees. It takes a special kind of person to be a referee. But I've never wanted to be a referee, Tom. I
Really?
was a player, and I always felt like if I reffed a match in between my own playing matches, it was going to kind of take away from where I needed to be in my focus.
Okay.
And so I am not a certified rep.
Yeah,
Rep.
it does take a certain kind of personality I mean, of course, we've talked to a couple of top refs here on the show in the past, and yeah, they're a different kind of personality. They have to really be into the rules and be able to assert themselves, but in a way that's not, shall we say, spoiling the game.
Yeah, for sure. And it's tough. It's a tough balance to have, and very few actual tournament foosball referees really are able to have that balance of understanding that you need to make the calls, but you also kind of need to stay out of the way as much as you possibly can. And maybe that's something that we find across all the different sports. Who knows?
Right. Now, I got a question for you, and I've always wanted to ask you this. If, let's say, your career as the greatest play-by-play announcer in foosball had never occurred, but you stayed in the game, do you think you would have become like pro master and gone on the tour?
I suppose it's possible, and I did kind of play the tour in the 1980s before I started doing this, and I
Okay.
did have some success. I was a pro player and I had a top 3 finish at the U.S. Open in open doubles, and so, but could I have ever become a top pro master? I don't think so. I don't think I had the work ethic, frankly. I
gotcha.
had the focus.
Right.
I knew how to get on a table. I knew how to get the most out of myself, but I didn't have the work ethic to put in the time.
Yeah,
And
understood.
and I think that kind of cost me a little bit as a player. Just and again, maybe I didn't have the resources either to be able to spend 6, 8, 10 hours on a table,
Oh, sure.
which at times early on is necessary.
Oh, no question.
So I think mentally, maybe I'm there. Physically, because I didn't practice as much as I should have. Maybe not so.
Right. So we have Spark Diggity says, let's see here. He is saying thoughts on tournament still going on. Is it reckless for majors, regionals to still play on with the current pandemic? And that's that would be, I believe, James.
That's James
That's
Castillo.
James,
Yeah.
yep.
Hey, Sparky. It's for each and every one of us to decide for ourselves, I suppose, whether it should happen and whether or not we would go to a tournament. It's difficult. It's really difficult to
Yeah.
know. And I'm not going to speak for anyone else as to whether or not they should go or not go. And if it's safe, if there are masks, if
Mhm.
if there are precautions taken, if there is an understanding that this is a serious issue. And it isn't just you or your friends who are getting it. It's the potential for someone who is very vulnerable to get it. And so, it's hard to say. I understand why tournaments are taking place. People do want to get out, do want to play, do want to feel normal, if you will, in the foosball community. But I think there's an argument on the other side as well.
Right. Another question comes from Jose. I hear nationals will be held in Denver in the future. Any truth to that, Jim?
I heard a rumor about that. I heard that perhaps nationals may be being looked at for taking place in the Denver area. And
Cool.
it was Colorado Springs, about 5 years ago, and it was a great event. But I think that's something that very well could happen. I think that is something that is being looked at. And yes, to answer your question, Jose, I think there's a possibility, pretty strong possibility it could happen.
So, in your guesstimation, Jim, when it comes to the requirements for a tournament like the Nationals, what are the prerequisites? What do you think should be present there when it comes to, let's say, the facilities and what kind of player base? What would have to happen before they could be considered for the Nationals?
It depends, when Mary or Mary Moore or whoever is running a major event, of course, they've got to find a good location that's open for that weekend. And there are services that do this. And the more you do it as a promoter, the more you get familiar with the process of dealing with hotels,
Mm-hmm.
getting a good deal, getting the ballroom free if you can, based on number of room nights sold or amount of food that are sold by the vendors at the hotel.
Okay.
Also player base certainly factors in. A strong local player base certainly can support that event and help promote it. So there are a
Right.
lot of things you look at. I think maybe the first thing you look at is how strong is the player base in that area?
Sure.
How easy is it to get to? Oftentimes, Denver is a hub. Dallas, which was the home of the Tornado World Championships for so long, is a major hub, easy to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's also a factor. And as a promoter, you have to take all these things into consideration. Of course, you want to get a good turnout. You want to have a quality venue, and create the necessary competitive environment. And oftentimes, you do have to have a certain size of ballroom. You have to have easy access to bring those tables in, which are heavy,
Sure.
and there's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And then, of course, for my particular needs, when I show up at a tournament, of course, I've got to have good internet.
Yeah.
I've got to have
Oh.
good staging. Ideally, we want to make sure that they have enough risers to create spectator seating. So there are a lot of things that go into it. But primary, I think, to it is finding a place with a strong player base, in Denver, of course, certainly fits that bill.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, fantastic question. Here's one from Mike. Will Jim and Tom be at Florida State, which I believe is at the end of January, beginning of, was it?
End of February.
End of February.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
yeah,
Okay.
towards the end of February. I will not be there this year. No Florida State. I have nothing on the schedule till probably April. Las Vegas, the Hall of Fame Classic, which
Yep.
we do hope is able to take place. We'll wait and see. We'll see how things go. We'll see how the vaccine lowers the numbers, and
Yes.
we'll see if you would think Las Vegas, if it's going to happen, would make sure that all the safety precautions are taken.
Oh, sure.
And
Sure,
so
sure.
for me, that's the next one I'm looking at.
Okay.
But beyond that, I think it could be a really busy year. It's going to be a concentrated year internationally, even, where they're going to have to fit in a lot of tournaments in a very short time
Yeah.
in order to get people qualified for next year's World Championship in Nantes, France, and the World Cup. And so it could be that I'm going to be doing quite a bit of traveling with Inside Foos, starting perhaps in the spring if things clear out a little bit, and then on through summer, fall,
Okay.
winter, etc.
Yeah, I'd say that's as good as an answer as any. I can say personally, when it comes to Florida State, I would love to. I know Rob Cato pretty well. He's a good guy. He's actually been on Foosball Radio in the past, and certainly love to participate. It just, for me, financially, and of course my full-time job is not going to allow that for this year. Although, not to say that won't happen in the future. So there you go. And I do want to join you, Jim, and of course Mark out on the road very soon, as early as it could be. Shall we say realistic?
Yeah.
Realistic in so many ways, safety wise, and of course the price of admission, etc. But yeah, I'm looking forward to those moments.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I've said it throughout the year. It's one day at a time.
Yeah.
It really is. Yeah, everything has to be considered. I really can't give you an answer to some things because I just don't know. Tomorrow, will I know? Maybe.
Yeah.
3 weeks from now, who knows? But it is very much one day at a time.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Well, it looks like Mark is going to be AOL for the evening. Would you like to do your top 5 regardless?
Sure, why not?
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that and talk about it a little bit, and maybe Chris Dube will have an opinion as well. But why not? We've got that great sound effect. Those great sound effects.
Let's not waste the moment. So
let's do it.
All right. So here we go, Jim.
Time once again for the FoosTalk Live Top 5.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Here's Jim Stevens and Mark Torres.
And not Mark Torres. Yes. Tonight, one of the things that we've been doing lately, the last few weeks, is looking back on the history of the sport. We've looked at the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the various tours, the Tournament Soccer Tour, the Dynamo Tour, the Tornado Tour, which really extended right on through the 2000s and into, of course, today. And so this week's top 5 is the top 5 singles players from the 2000s.
The 2000s. Now that's
from the 2000s.
So right, we're considering technically speaking
2009.
Okay, so from 1999 through 2010, something like that.
2000 through 2010.
Got it.
We'll say.
Okay. Well,
even though I think that decade actually, the millennium actually started 2001. But anyway,
right.
We digress.
Technically speaking.
And so the one thing that made that made that decade so interesting, at the beginning of that decade, it was, Frederic Collignon really coming into his own. He won in 1999. He won in 2000. And so entering the decade, he was the man. He was the singles player. He had won the 2 previous world championships coming into 2001.
Okay.
Which is when Johnny Horton won his world championship.
Right.
But the thing that was interesting about the 2000s is during that decade, it probably had the 4 greatest singles players in the history of the sport.
Really?
Playing during that decade. Collignon early, then came Spredeman and Pappas around 03, 04.
Okay.
And then Ryan Moore much later in the decade, 07, 08 and on, and he finally got his first world championship in 2010.
2010, right at
during
the
that
edge.
decade, yeah. And during that decade of the 2000s, there were only 5 players that won championships. It was Collignon, it was Spredeman, who won 2, and it was Billy Pappas, it was Ryan Moore, who won the 1 in 2010, and it was Johnny Horton, who hopefully is going to be our guest next week, was supposed to be here this week. So
yeah.
So there you go. It was an incredible decade for singles play. We had some great singles players. Let's do it.
Yeah.
FoosTalk Live Top 5. Number 5.
It's a tough one. Yeah, this is tough. The top part of the list, the top 3, I think I've got a pretty good handle on. But towards the bottom of the list, it's tougher because there weren't a lot of guys that won championships besides those top 3. There were a few. Ryan Moore won in 2010. I do not have him in my top 5 just because there just wasn't enough time during that decade. He didn't have enough results during the decade of the 2000s. So I've got Robert Mares sitting there at number 5. Mares, a guy always there, always top 3. A couple of wins, 2 or 3 finals appearances at the World Championships, Tornado Worlds, and a guy that just was so consistently successful, always there. Never won the Tornado Worlds, as we said, but was close. Second a number of times. Won other titles, and of course was just consistently always in the mix. So I've got Robert Mares sitting at number 5.
So you could also consider Robert. Also, if you were going to use the let's say the top 5 nicest people in foosball, he would make the top 5, don't you think?
For sure. Robbie's a great guy, and of course, all of us got to know him pretty well. Oh, I already knew him pretty well, but everybody got to kind of know him pretty well from the movie Foosballers, where we really spent a lot of time down in his Foos cave,
right,
and hanging out and eating waffles and all of that with Robbie. And Robbie is just, we've talked about his influence internationally. Really the first guy that really took America overseas, so to speak,
Right.
and the captain of the United States World Cup team for every single World Cup, all 10 of them, and has won 6 gold medals. And so,
Wow.
class act, yeah, truly one of the greats, a Hall of Famer. Originally out of Arizona, now out of Aurora, Colorado, there in the Denver area. But a great singles player, could do it all on a table. When you think of Robert Marge, you don't think of him as a forward, you don't think of him as a goalie, you think of him as a foosball player and a great singles player, who I have at number 5 for the 2000s.
FoosTalk Live Top 5. Number
4, a guy that we talked about a couple weeks ago as really being the player of the 1990s. And a couple of singles world championships in that decade. Did not win any singles world championships in the 2000s, but had several titles, Hall of Fame titles, national titles. And that's Terry Moore.
Terry Moore.
This guy had a great 90s, retired around, I want to say around 07, 08, maybe made it almost to 10. But again, consistent with a lot of wins. And with a lot of runner-up finishes and just a very consistent singles player. Now, this is a guy that was 6'6" and weighed about 395 pounds.
I didn't realize he was that tall.
Yes, very, very large man. And to think about him playing singles, because transition game is such a key part of the singles format, of him moving forward to goalie to forward, offense to defense, etc. But he was able to do it. He had a really good transition game. Again, the height probably helped him, but his anticipation as well. And that's part of what made him such a great singles player. Also a great defensive a great defensive goalie as well. One of the best 5 rows ever offensively. And of course, the snake shot on the 3-rod, but just a great singles player. And I have him as my number 4 for the 2000s.
Quick question on Terry Moore. Now, of course, he was the first to be successful with the snake shot, the rollover snake. Now, did that have anything to do with the size of his like this physical size of his hands? Larger hands, do they tend to do better with the snake shot?
That could be a great point, and also for leverage reasons, maybe. Although he could shoot a pretty good pull shooter, not bad. It didn't really have a lot of the other skills. Didn't have pull kicks and push kicks too much. But you could have something there in terms of, because he was a very large man, very large hands, very large wrist for the snake shot. And certainly that could have been a factor, and maybe a factor in him getting so good so fast. Because I've told the story, 1989, I'm tossing him in the back in a DYP and telling him to do the best he could. And by 1992, he's the best player in the world.
Wow.
So
yeah,
it happened quick for him, and maybe that was a factor.
Okay.
FoosTalk Live Top 5. Number 3.
This is when we really get into some amazing singles players. Not that Terry Moore wasn't, not that Robert Martis wasn't, not that Ryan Moore wasn't a great singles player. If we're doing a singles countdown from the 2010s, Ryan Moore obviously is in there.
Yeah.
But this final 3, we're talking about, conceivably the 3. And of course, we haven't even said Todd Lafredo's name tonight. Todd Lafredo also had a pretty nice decade as a singles player, pretty nice career overall. But my number 3 is Tony Spredeman. And of course, it's kind of odd because Tony Spredeman is recognized now as the greatest singles player in the history of tornado foosball, American foosball, certainly. But Tony, during that decade, won world championships in 2003 and 2008. Also won a national championship, I want to say 2004. Picked up a couple of other titles along the way, and was a great singles player, no question about it. And maybe on another list against some other players, he might have been number 1.
Okay.
And we all know what kind of singles player he became. You look back on that decade, considering what he did during the 2010s, you look back on the 2000s and you say, well, he only won in 03 and he only won in 08 and mixed a few other titles in. Because of the 2010s, he has been remarkable with, I think, 8 world championships overall.
Wow, I mean, you can't argue with that.
6 of them in the decade of the 2010s.
I mean, would he also be technically considered one of the youngest players to ever win a national title or a world title?
Yeah, he'd be one of the youngest. I want to say he was 18 when he won his first world championship in 2003. Tommy Atkinson, I believe, also was 18 when he won in 1993, 1 decade earlier.
It's impressive.
Johnny Horton, when he won, I believe, was 18. Ron Nevoy, player back in the late 1970s, I believe, was 17 when he won the world championship. And so Billy Pappas also, when he won his first world title, I think Billy was 20 when he won his first world singles championship. And but he was one of the youngest at the time, certainly, and really burst on the scene explosively in the early 2000s. So I've got Tony at number 3.
FoosTalk Live Top 5. Number 2.
You know, when I first looked at this list, I said, I'm going to end up having Billy Pappas up on top. I know he won 4 world championships during that decade.
Yeah.
And so, but I didn't. I didn't put him. I put him at number 2 instead. Billy Pappas is number 2. He won 3 world championships, actually. I thought it was 4. He won his 4th, I think, in 2011, so just outside that decade. But he did win 3 world championships. In 2005, he won the Open Singles World Championship at the Tornado Worlds, while Frederic Collignon won the Championship Singles title at that same event.
Interesting.
That was the one year where they had both Open and Championship only open to master-rated players.
Right.
And so Billy did win also a national championship in 2005. And was in a couple of other finals in singles as well. Might have even picked up a Hall of Fame Classic title. But those 3 world championships, exceptional. He won 4 world championships in, I believe, 6 years.
Interesting.
On the Tornado Tour. But yet still, I've only got him at number 2.
No, Billy is from my neck of the woods, in Massachusetts, and he used to come to Albany to play in some of the Smashdowns there. I missed him by a few years, but the stories were legendary. He was so young, yet he was so talented, and he was smashing adults, kind of a precursor to Sam DeJean in a way. But Billy had that just drive. Apparently, he just stopped at nothing and picked himself up every time when he lost and came right back at him. And,
that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And I remember Billy 1995 U.S. Open up in Cleveland, Ohio, as a 10-year-old in rookie singles.
Wow.
Lost his first match and came back and won something like 12 or 16 matches in a row.
Whoa.
Many against players 2 or 3 times, 4 times his age, and came all the way back and won the championship in rookie singles at the age of 10.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Amazing.
So we all kind of figured he was going to amount to something.
Yep.
And eventually, of course, he did. So maybe the most talented player the sport has ever seen, in terms of what he can do both at forward and goalie. Single skills, amazing. The hand speed, amazing. Great defensive player when he wants to be, and certainly one of the best offensive players we have ever seen. Billy Pappas, number 2 for me.
FoosTalk Live proudly presents the Top 5. Number 1.
Step back.
Number 1. This guy is at the head of so many different lists, and I'm not sure that Mark Torres would have had him in number 1.
Interesting.
I'm thinking might have had Billy up there. But when you look closely at the record, during that decade of 2000 through 2010, Frederic Collignon won 5 Tornado World Singles Championships.
5.
He also came over for 1 national championship event, just 1. And he quadrupled. He won singles, doubles, mixed doubles, and master singles. So he won that weekend. I believe it was in Atlanta. He won both open singles at the Nationals and master singles, which was still a prestigious event at that time. And not to mention what he did overseas. And we are a little bit America-centric at times on this show.
Sure.
So we also have to recognize during that decade that he completely dominated every other tour that there was, including the ITSF multi-table world championships, where he won the first 5 world championships that were held on that table or in that event on multi-table. So Collignon, not only did he win 5 Tornado World Championships, he won another 5 multi-table world championships. He won a Tornado Nationals. He won a Masters. When you look at it, it's really not even close. The number 1 singles player of that decade was Frederic Collignon.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that I totally would have to agree. I mean, I still remember the first time I was hearing his name quite a bit prior to my trip to Germany, but I went to Germany back in 2011 to visit relatives and found a DYP that I could play in on a Friday evening in Hanover, Germany. And their national training center, very impressive place, I got to say. They had one room, though, devoted to, I think there was 3 tables in one room, although I think they had 14 in the whole place. But this one room devoted to this set of tables, which one of them happened to be a tornado table, by the way. In that room, wall to wall, floor to ceiling, trophies with the name Federico Collignon. So it's like, oh my goodness, this guy, he's a whole lot more than I realized. And then it struck me like, oh, okay, he must be like this national hero. Now he's from Belgium, though, isn't he?
He is. He's from Belgium, Liège, Belgium, a little bit west of where the Battle of the Bulge was actually held, in eastern Belgium, over towards the German border.
No kidding.
But when you look at this guy's career record, and we've talked about this before, I don't know that anyone will ever usurp him as the number one player of all time because of what he has done internationally. And then again, as we've talked about before, Tornado, probably his worst table, yet he won more than 20 world championships on it. And had a great career over here as well.
Yeah.
And, but really dominated on all the other tours, dominated multi-table world championship events, even got himself a World Cup with a team from Belgium that may not have been the strongest team there that weekend. But of course, with him being part of it, he's going to get a win every single time. And I think he did during the course of that event.
What are the odds of this ever happening again with someone from the continent of Europe actually coming in and dominating in America? Do you think that'll ever occur?
Hard to imagine, although you never know. The way the Germans are producing players, the way that the young players are coming along in Europe, it could happen. No one's ever going to dominate the way that he did, and he continues to, even when he still plays occasionally in Europe. Most dominant player we've ever seen, and I don't think that anyone can ever match what the great Federico Collignon has done. And who knows? We'll see what happens moving forward.
Yeah.
But looking at the record, it's hard to imagine anyone else winning what I believe is more than 100 world championship titles.
Wow, 100.
So
that's astounding.
and doing the math, compiling all those results from all those different tables, world champion on at least 8 tables. Multiple times, and compiling all those records would be difficult to do.
Right,
but I can kind of give you a ballpark figure of at least 100 world championships for Federico Collignon.
That's amazing. Wow, so, and he's still a young guy. I mean, still he's in his 40s, something like that.
So yeah, he's in his 40s. It's what is it now? 25 years since he first came over here, when I believe he was about 20. So we're going to say mid 40s for Federico Collignon. Yeah, and I've seen him play a few times in Europe over the last few years, and he is still, of course, an incredibly talented, an elite player, the greatest player of all time.
So, Jim, how does it feel to give us your top 5 without being, shall we say, contested by Mark Torres?
Yeah, this is what they call a walkover, Tom. I'm not going to say he forfeited.
Well,
but Mark has good reasons for not being here tonight. We wish you the best, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so no, I love the chemistry that Mark and I have. I love battling Mark Torres, who has incredible foosball knowledge and insight. And so I kind of miss him.
Things are quiet right now. Things are quiet on FoosTalk Live, a little quiet for us. You and I kind of have similar personalities that way, so there's not as much, shall we say, spice in the mix.
I call it bluster.
Bluster.
Yeah. But let's get a little spice in the mix.
We've
got somebody sitting out there, I think, who might be ready to go.
Right. Yes. So our special guest this evening, of course, we are so happy and so proud to know that. This individual is so legendary in his fierce competitiveness, not just in foosball, but also wrestling. We'd like to welcome to FoosTalk Live for the first time, Little Kato, also known as Chris Dube. Chris, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear. How you doing, man?
Hey, Chris.
Doing good. How are you, Jim?
Doing well, buddy. Good to hear your voice. Glad you're able to join us here tonight.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on.
So, Chris, this is an absolute honor for me to get a chance to not only get a chance to meet you, but also spend some time talking about foosball and some of the other things you've been involved with in your life. Now, of course, it's customary when you come on FoosTalk Live that, especially with your kind of past, I like to start at the very beginning. So, okay, you tell me, when was the very first time you saw a foosball table, and what kind of table was it?
Well, I was it's probably 1977.
Okay.
I was in junior high. I was going into 8th grade, and I lived in a court in Fremont, California, same city Adrian Zamora is from.
Right.
And so my neighbor 4 doors down, his dad bought a brand new Butcher Block tournament soccer blue top table.
Ooh.
And
Nice.
so we were pretty athletic in our court. A bunch of us guys played every sport,
Yep.
football, baseball, and basketball. But when that foosball table came, that was something that really took my interest pretty quickly.
Yeah. Did you know, like, this is something that you'd like to do competitively, or how long did it take before you became competitive?
Well, it took a while because I just played the guys in the court. But
Yeah.
then my buddy that had the table, he went to Phoenix, Arizona one summer, and he went to an arcade there. And when he came back, he said, "Doobie, man, you and we had some good players in the Bay Area. I don't believe Thor was there quite yet, but we had some darn good novice players."
Okay.
But he said, "You got to see this guy named Johnny Vias and Johnny Horton.
Oh.
These guys are incredible. The ball control, and I mean, and so I started reading up on like Table Talk or Foos News.
Yep.
And then eventually I went out to Phoenix because I had relatives, my grandparents lived there. So I would go there in the summer. And I went to that arcade where he told me they were at. Sure enough, I seen him in there. I played in the tournament.
So
and
you actually you sought them out. You tried to track them down.
Yeah, I mean, yep, I sure did. They were really young at the time, and
Yeah.
boy, Horton was flamboyant then. Also, I mean, but,
Was he?
but what a player! I mean, when I seen that really, the skill of those two guys, it really got me hooked.
Mm-hmm. Now, is it something that you evolved? Like a lot of people in the beginning, they start as a goalie and then they move up to forward. Now, how about you? How did it evolve for you?
Well, I started playing in local tournaments in Fremont, and the very first tournament I ever went to, it was a Piccadilly Circus Friday nights. That's where they had rookie tournaments,
Mm-hmm.
and I seen at that tournament I seen Adrian Zamora, and I watched his game. He had a little pool shot, and the thing I noticed about Adrian was even then he had a sneaky little 5-bar series. Sneaky brush series,
Sneaky.
and you could just tell that he was going to be, even at a young age, that Adrian was going to be something special.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and then I played on Saturday nights. I played in the open tournament they had at Galaxy Time Zone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably where I met Jim at the first time. But so I started playing there, and then the first out of city tournament wasn't out of state, but we went up to Chico, California. That was my first out of town like traveling tournament for a whole weekend.
Cool.
And I went and played. I played with a friend named Donald Slegman, and we did pretty well. We did good in the rookie events or whatever, but we did good in open. I think we got like a 7th or something like that. And we beat a couple good teams, and that really got me going to want to travel and play on tour. Just go out of state and play foos.
Yeah. No, that's remarkable. So when was the very first time you scored a major? In other words, you won a tournament, and what year was that? And who would you play with?
Well, winning a major tournament.
Yeah.
So even a rookie or amateur or expert title.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that other major that you're referring to. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay. That's a good one. I think I wouldn't say, but won New Mexico State. It was one of my first times going. Adrian and I traveled. We went to New Mexico and we played New Mexico State championships, and we won open doubles. Adrian and I took, believe it or not, I took second in open singles.
Okay.
Won mixed doubles, and that was in New Mexico State championships, I believe, in '85.
Jeez.
We beat Kevin Everson and Mark Rudnicki that weekend in open doubles. And then I believe the following weekend, or maybe 2 weeks later, they won super doubles in St. Louis.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Hey, who played forward? Who played forward when you and Adrian played together?
That you know what? Our team name was You Play Back. I started off in the back. I played a little bit of goalie when I was younger because I could shoot bank shots out of the back. It was wide open then. You didn't shoot just pulls and pushes. But I did start off playing goalie.
Okay. Interesting. No,
I wasn't very good at it. That's why I got up front pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, it's good thing you did. You were definitely a power forward. So you come up in the late 70s into the early 80s in that NorCal scene. It was a very strong scene, and you mentioned you and I met, and it probably was maybe a galaxy in those early 80s. But it was a strong scene in Northern California. We had a pretty good one down in Southern California as well. It was a rivalry, and you guys would come down to us. Sometimes we'd go up to you. But talk a little bit about some of the players that you grew up with, the guys that challenged you, the guys you learned from. Some of the names, and we've talked about it here, of course, with Mark Torres. But I want to hear it from your perspective as well. You mentioned Adrian Zamora. Who else were there that really competed with you, or kind of brought you along, maybe as a player as well?
Well, when Ader and I and Steve Ambus, Donald, we were all rookies, but we had Jimmy Lopez and Roy Albert, Dan Casey, Ed Lee, and Victor Fong,
Yeah.
who was a really good goalie, and Casey, darn good goalie. Those guys were people that we looked up to as the rookies. Ader and I and the other guys weren't quite there yet. So the Bay Area, like I heard Dana Marr on here a couple weeks ago, and yeah, playing in a draw your partner in Fremont at Galaxy was brutal. And then Thor come along, and
Yeah,
man, I'll tell you what, we thought we were really good, and we were okay, and we had 5 bars, but Thor had such an awesome 5 bar, and just the will of him, the way he played the game. Like Mark said, when he was practicing or playing a regular game or just a pickup game, you couldn't tell the difference. And Thor dominated. But let me say something about Thor. Usually if you got somebody in your local area that wins every week, people get a little upset. They don't like them and they don't root for them. But I swear to you, it was never like that with Thor Donovan.
yeah.
Thor Donovan, week in and week out practice. We even went to a time when he drew something and draw your partners, he would have to spot people points. But we never got mad or got upset with Thor winning, because he was just such a great sport, off the table. Also, just a great human being and a class act on the table.
Yeah, that's for sure. Both on and off the table, and even us down in Southern California, when we'd lose to him, it wasn't like losing to some of the rest of you, because we really admired him and thought he was a great guy. But the other thing is he was a pull kicker as well. We're looking back on the last 40 years of foosball, and we look at the best pull kickers from those 4 decades. It's you and Thor, and so what's there? Of course, you did an open hand style. His was closed hand, but still pull kicks. You're still getting similar reads. Was there ever any kind of rivalry because you two were both pull kickers?
No, I wouldn't. No, it was just, it wasn't any different than playing somebody with the pull shot, because we both did it a different way. I did it with the open hand, and Thor did it with the closed hand. And Thor's shot is just a thing of beauty, because he tried to shoot the wrist, a pull kick with the wrist. It's an awkward stroke, and it was just so pretty to watch his pull kick when he was on. And then when he was picking them holes, he could dink, he could do it all with that pull kick.
We just don't see that much anymore. It's almost like a lost art in a way, in so many
It
instances.
is. It is, because it starts with the percentages.
Yeah.
The reason why it doesn't win as much is because a pull kick and a push kick, the ball isn't set up in front of the hole.
Yeah.
And the defender doesn't have to have a man always in front of the ball.
Right.
And so that's and then you're using two players, so that decreases your chances right there of execution. If you're only using one player, you're probably going to have a higher percentage of putting the ball on goal.
We have a pull kicker in our midst here in the 518 in upstate New York and Albany. His name is Jim Peters, and we pick on him constantly, but he kills us with that thing. When he's on, it's tough to stop his pull kick. He's just flaming. And he's he's in his 40s or mid 40s now, still just as strong as ever. But it's just rare to see any of that on the tour.
Such a fun shot to shoot. There's a lot of options, and for me it was tailor made for me to shoot it with the open hand, because my hands aren't very big. So for me to roll it, it doesn't take very long. For somebody Jim's size to roll it, takes a long time for somebody with a big hand.
Right.
That's why you don't shoot open hand shots unless you're shooting a rollover. A couple open hand push shots over the years, but there's weaknesses with those shots.
Well, when it comes
But
to the way you played, I mean, your style of play, what other advantages did you feel you had when it came to playing foosball?
I don't feel like I had any advantages.
Okay. Okay.
The only thing was the shooting the pool kick was tailor made for me,
Right.
because I could shoot a halfway decent pool shot, but I wasn't going to be able to hit it super hard like a regular sized dude.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
a pool kick open hand was just, it was tailor made. It was meant for me.
You're right. Right.
Yeah, and and you mentioned it, Chris. You said it was fun, and it really is. And I'm a push kicker, you know that, right? So
Yes,
those shots
that's
those shots are fun to hit. And one of the things that really hurt us kick shooters was the fact that once we went to Tornado, you really couldn't do the angles. The angles weren't there, at least from my point of view as a push kicker. Those angles, that short angle, that split angle, were big, and you could not hit them with any consistency with a foot on that Tornado man. And it hurt us. And I think it's hurt. It's why everybody kind of went to the pull shot or the snake shot. Because the tables no longer were really catered to those kinds of shots, but they were fun, right?
Yes, definitely, Jim. And I remember when the Tornado first come out, California, the toe was more square, and
Right.
to shoot an open hand pool kick, it was not going to happen because you couldn't go long without it cutting back to the first hole. You couldn't square it off with that little square toe. So I got into wrestling when I moved to Missouri, and I pretty much quit playing on the Tornado table. And I
Huh.
got a call from Adrian, several years after I had, quit for a while. And he said, "Dude, I think you can play on the Tornado table now. They changed the toe, the
Mhm.
toe of the man. It's more rounded like the old tables." And sure enough, I started playing on it. I could hit that pool kick again. I could square it up.
Nice.
And I went to a tournament in Minneapolis, and I played, I think, novice doubles with Liz Hill, and we got like second. And I didn't have a 5-bar. That was probably my weakest point of my game all through my career, was the offensive 5. I get so nervous I couldn't pass very well.
Mm.
But I knew if I had a table and got a 5-bar, I could play again. I could compete. And,
Yeah,
and that's what I did.
You started on the TS tour, the late '70s. You mentioned the Butcher Block Blue Top. The Blue Top still the best of the tournament soccer tables, in my
Yeah.
opinion. And then you went to Dynamo, and then you kind of stepped away. It sounds like, and then you came back. And boy, did you come back! 1994, Minneapolis. That was my first year out on full time doing my gig on for Inside Foos. I'm up there in Minneapolis, and there's all these great players, of course, and I know you, and I've known you for a little bit from our California days. And you had a heck of a weekend, man. That was so much fun to watch. You and
Mhm.
Merv Schrock. It wasn't a shocker, but it was a surprise, right?
Oh, it
Considering
was. It was. There's no question about it. Merv and I had been knocking on the door. We took fourth in the Worlds. We lost to Smith and Eddie
Yep.
Gartman. Meatball. I didn't get a shot. I think John had 2. He got it on the second one. I had dinked Eddie 4 times that game. I don't know what kind of dink I would have did on the last on the shot if I'd had it, but yeah, Merv and I were knocking on the door. We were playing well. But the thing about that Minneapolis tournament was I was in Germany for 3 months before that U.S. Open.
Really?
And I was wrestling on the wrestling tour for 3 months. I got back about 2.5, 3 weeks before the U.S. Open. So I went up to, but I did play a little bit in Germany because every bar practically has a foos table.
Yes.
But it was their table. So it wasn't like I had played on a Tornado. So when I got back, I immediately I spent some time with my family. Then I went up to Algona, Iowa. My buddies up there, God bless them. I miss going up there and playing foos at Marv's place and with Rezzy and Hoover and all them goddamn Mo and Kevin McCartney. But anyway, we practiced and the table felt brand new. My shot was crisp. And I told these guys, I said, you know what? Merv and I are going to win this U.S. Open. We're going to win it. And I really believed it because I had a game plan. I was pretty wild when I was younger and I wasn't disciplined when I went to tournaments. I ran the halls at night after the matches were, last match call and stayed up and partied 3 or 4 in the morning, couple hours sleep.
Oh boy.
I told myself that tournament that there was going to be none of that. I was no partying, no nothing, taking care of business. And and that's what I did the whole weekend.
Cool.
And it paid off. I remember our first match against Thor and Gary Edgeworth. I had bronchitis that weekend really bad, and I started coughing in the middle of the match, and they gave me a medical timeout. It took me about 10-15 minutes, but we resumed play, and yeah, it was that weekend that I just stayed real disciplined. I was really focused. I remember Evan saying it on the video there, and I was probably more focused that tournament than any tournament I ever played in.
That's amazing. How did you feel after that happened? That moment when you realized you'd just taken it.
Well,
what was going through your mind?
You heard it on the video.
Yeah.
I acted like a complete fool. I mean, but listen, it was the first time I ever won and the only time.
Yeah.
In open doubles. It was something I grew up playing foosball at that early. I played basketball and I got cut my freshman year in high school.
Wow.
And that's when I told myself it's foos.
Yeah.
Because I knew it didn't matter how big you were. I had a platform I stood on.
Yep.
And I could beat somebody like Terry Moore's size because the size didn't matter in this game.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what got me going for real. So when we won that tournament, I had never won before, and yeah, I acted completely like I had never won.
Well,
don't act like you've done it before. Well, there's living proof he never done it before.
That's missing from the game, though. I mean,
I get embarrassed when I see it. I mean, there's Merv. Merv didn't win a whole bunch of times. That was the first one he won.
Yeah,
but he, that was the difference between him and I. He was the calm, cool, collective one, and I was the boisterous, flamboyant one.
But we've had this conversation a lot lately, debating, should we allow once again for cheering and talk to come back, not necessarily trash talking, but talk during play, to let that come back and shall we say re-energize the experience of watching foosball. What do you think?
I think it's good as long as it's not directed directly at somebody.
Yeah.
And most time I was talking to myself. I would call myself midget. Come on, midget, let's go.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
That's what I did to put myself up, and people would just lose it. They would think it was the funniest thing. I remember one time I played Tracy McMillan at the Worlds in open singles. He had played Tommy match before.
Okay.
I had to play the losers. So he didn't like Tommy's, his antics. Tommy's loud on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Tracy's not a big fan of that. So when I got up there, I'm more like a Tommy instead of being quiet like Tracy and Dave Gummison.
Right.
So when I played him in singles, I kneeled down and I was sitting on my bench and I had some duct tape and I pulled some duct tape out of my bag and I taped my mouth shut with duct tape. And I played the whole singles match against Tracy McMillan with duct tape until he beat me. He beat me twice that tournament in singles.
Wow.
But when he scored one shot towards the end, I kind of undid the tape and I said, "Good shot." And I put it back on, and I never said another word the whole match.
That is amazing.
I think I remember that. That's hilarious.
Is there film?
Everybody around the table was just rolling. They thought that was some funny stuff.
That is good. That's creative. No question about it.
Well,
wow.
It's important to be entertaining. It really is. And when you mentioned Tommy Atkinson, of course, Johnny Horton, yourself,
guys
Swan, fun.
Swan,
yeah, absolutely. Guys that are fun to watch, that react, that emote, and it's all natural and organic. You're just being yourself, but you're excited, and it's a lot of fun to watch. And our buddy Mark Torres is really pushing for actual rule changes to allow for a little bit more conversation, a little bit more emoting and reacting. And I think it's probably a good idea. And when I think back on watching you and commentating you, which I always loved, I really enjoyed watching you play, Chris. And you know that. But we need more of that. Jim. We need more guys like you that wear your emotions on your sleeve, that are really celebrating when you win. I never thought. I mean, when you won, everybody felt so good for you and Merv when you guys won up at the U.S. Open in Minneapolis in '94. And a lot of it is just because of how hard you work at your craft, at your game. And so, what are some of the other? No, nothing's going to be bigger than that. That's the biggest win of your career, no doubt. But what are some other memorable wins or performances or events that you have?
I like to touch on this one since since Dana Marr Drew. Listen, I listened to that the other night, and so I got a chuckle out of a couple things. Here's one. Dana, I don't think he means it, but he threw Thor under the table. He threw, I mean,
What?
under the bus. He threw Thor on the bus with saying he went 1 for 29 on Bowers. That's, I was there, I remember. And he was right. A lot of them hit the wall, and a lot of his lungs were bouncing up and hitting the top of the goal. But and then he threw Ader and I under the table with the rosin, collecting the rosin.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe he said that.
That was during the blackout, right?
Yeah. But here's one of my memorable moments on tour. It was the 97 Worlds. And Merv was, I thought, a really underrated goalie. So I said to him, I mean, you got some top master players wanting to play. Go ahead and go for it. You know, I ain't going to get upset. So he played with Jeep, and he played with a couple other people. But so going to 97 Worlds, Dana Marr and I were going to play. So I left Missouri and I went out to California, San Jose, and we were supposed to practice for like a week. But when I got there, I had a lot of distractions. And long story short, I did not have good practice habits. And Dana did not approve of my practice habits. So I went back home and we meet at the Worlds. And I get to the Worlds, Dana's there already. And I'm checking in the hotel, and somebody says, "Hey, dude, who are you playing with this weekend?" I said, "Well, I'm playing with Dana Marr." And they said, "You're playing with Dana?" I said, "Yeah, Dana and I are playing." They said, "Oh, he's over there. They talk about he's going to maybe play with Spear."
Oh.
Well, Spear went to the Worlds that year. He didn't have a partner. So Spear's over here in the corner of the tournament room, and he's got all these some pros, some good novice players, goalies. He's spinning a web out there, getting all these players. He's like, you know, taking applications. And so Chuck Pistol was involved in that. He was in that web. And so obviously Dana was in it too. Dana was good. Dana had dumped me pretty much. He was going to play with Spear.
That's not good. Chris, you still with us? I think we lost.
Nope, good old internet.
Yep, the internet just did us in on that one.
No, I remember the event.
Oh, there he is.
Are you back? There you go.
I said, the heck with that, Chuck. I said, get out of that web and let's just you and I play. And you know, he thought about it. Let me think about it a little bit, Dube. And then about 15 minutes went by. He found me and said, "All right, let's go ahead and play." and Chuck and I ended up taking third in the world that year.
Wow.
We kicked some butt. The only team we lost to was Mares and Tommy.
Yeah.
Both winners and the losers bracket. And fellas, listen, I don't know. Terry Moore and Diaz won, of course. They deserved it. They played awesome that weekend. But if Chuck and I could have found a way to beat Tommy and Mares, I really believe the matchup. I matched up good against Terry because he had a slow, methodical 5-bar. Tommy and Mares were a nightmare for me. Not a good matchup. I didn't do good against their 5s. But Terry, I could hang with him. And I had beaten them guys at the U.S. Open, Terry and Diaz. And I always scored good on Bobby Diaz. And to me, Bobby Diaz is the greatest blocking goalie of all time.
Yep.
But I never had my shot. You don't see a lot of pull kicks. I could score on Bobby.
I remember that 97 Worlds very well. I remember you and Chuck playing, and Chuck, of course, hitting that big 7 pull kick that he loved, that tuck.
Oh, gosh.
He did a couple of those every game, it seemed. And you were on fire. And what a great run you guys had that year. You were really the big story. Juarez and Atkinson were trying to go back to back that year, and it was Moore and Diaz who eventually won in their only World Championship win. But you guys were kind of the big story. It was really exciting to watch you guys play.
You know, Todd and Scotty had us 2-0. This was for third, and they had us 2-0. Scotty was shutting me out, but he was acting up a little bit, being cocky, and somebody told me during the timeout, in between games, that Chris, you need to move the ball back and forth and shoot a little bit on a quicker count, maybe throw a couple dinks in there, and we ended up beating them 3 straight. I didn't get that last one. Chuck shot that pool kick out of the back.
Yeah.
And that's how we beat them. It was awesome.
Chuck Bissell, kind of an underrated goalie, really, when you look back on things, because he could do it back there, couldn't he? He came out of that Oklahoma program of Link Pendley, and he could shoot.
Yeah,
the
played
ball
against
really
Tommy
well.
and he played against Tommy all the time, and Sammy Deal, and so yeah, it was. I got lucky to play with him. It was an honor. I mean, he was on fire, and you know what? They said he didn't block well. That was but he blocked real well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He played awesome.
Underrated. Yeah, underrated. Now that was a great run as well for you. And again, you're a guy. You're like Horton or Clignon. Some of these, when you look around the room, you're going to have some of the bigger crowds watching you. And it was a lot of fun that year in particular in '97, Tom. And again, kind of unexpected. Again, you paired up with Chuck before the event. I remember Spear over in the corner, and he went to the highest bidder. I don't even remember who he played with that year, who he settled on. But I do remember that well. And those years, I remember so fondly. What a great era of football that was.
And the credit to Dana Marr. I think he ended up playing with a female player, but he was there. He was there rooting Chuck and I on, and giving me some advice.
So that's cool.
So
a good spirit about it. Yeah. So Chris, we have a caller for you. Everclear is called into FoosTalk Live. FoosTalk Live welcomes Everclear. How you doing?
Who this is? Everclear. I know Windows.
Who's throwing who under the bus right now?
There it is.
Yeah, and it was me that told you need to move that ball against Weidman.
Yeah, you were helping. You helped me.
Yeah, that was a good tournament for you, Chris. That was so cool to watch, even though I was bent out of shape, and I ended up playing with Marv that tournament. That's who I played with.
Wow.
Okay.
And Marv and I went out in two, and the guy put me in a headlock and brought me to the bar and promptly fed me like 5 kamikazes after that.
Put a headlock in you?
He did.
Marv Puha, who after he had a few drinks, we all became his toys, didn't we? And you had to stay away from Marv after he'd had a few. He was a very, very large, very strong man who hit that ball on the foosball table as hard as anybody ever has.
Wow.
This course, Dana, great to hear from you. Great for you to come on with your good friend Chris Dube tonight.
Yeah, I just wanted to say hi because I can't get Chris to return my calls anyway, so I figure I might as well just tell him hi now.
What is up with that?
We just talked the other day.
Too busy. That's the problem.
Yeah, that was a great tournament, Chris. I enjoyed it, and I was happy for you. Like when we started out, we weren't friends like we are now. Now Chris is like my brother, man. I love him just like a brother. And back then, we still had a little animosity, and we didn't get along that good. And I definitely had to swallow my pride and root for him because he really had nothing to do with it. He didn't tell the story exactly accurate, in my opinion. But
I thought we got along really good at that time. And I don't think my practice habits were good when I was out there. I wasn't.
You didn't have practice habits. You didn't practice. That was the deal. You just didn't practice.
Yeah. I
you came out to visit me for a week, and you hadn't been there for a while, and you spent more time catching up with your buddies that you hadn't seen in years, which was totally cool.
He is right.
Now, hang on here. This is FoosTalk Live. It's not couples therapy, okay? I mean, it's on your own time.
All right, I'm going to let you guys go. Chris, I love you, brother.
All right, Dan, love you, Dan. Take care.
You guys have a good night, you guys.
Wow, that's great. I love that. You guys, after all this time, that's great.
Oh, yeah, Dana's good people.
Yeah.
He's real good people.
Well, I mean, another great name.
Another thing, guys, too, one of my proudest things of foosball is being, to me, I know Jim touched on Federico, the greatest singles or the greatest player ever.
Yes.
For me, my greatest player ever is Todd Lafredo.
Oh yeah.
The reason why is the longevity. I know he hasn't played on all the tables, has the championships on all the other tables from the other countries, but I believe if he lived over there in Europe, he would have.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, to me, Todd Lafredo's the greatest of all time. The longevity, started late 70s and still playing at such a high level. I know there's Tony and Ryan Moore but besides them two guys, Todd's still right there.
Yep.
I mean, he's such a it's incredible the longevity that more than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah.
I try to think of some players that played for many, many years in their sports, and there isn't one that can match up to Todd.
No, very few.
We're looking at almost 45 years now since he won his first world championship, and he's still a factor. He's still a top 10 player in the world, still a guy that can win at any time. No question about it. But when you look at the overall record of Collignon, it's hard not to call him number one.
Yeah.
But I tell you, Lafredo, the longevity, there is nobody else in any sport. Maybe Sam Snead in golf would be the only other example.
Yeah. Jeez.
Of someone who can go that long and be that successful.
So one of the things that probably besides winning the U.S. Open that I'm most proud of is being part of a team that put Todd Lafredo out of two worlds. I'm not, when I say I mean as a team, because I didn't do it in singles, but I put Todd Lafredo out of open doubles 2 times in my career.
Wow. That's
Once
impressive.
he was playing with Terry Moore, and Merv and I beat him 2 straight for 7th in Dallas, and then he was playing with Scotty, and we got him in the 5th with Chuck.
Very cool.
That's beating the greatest player in my mind of all time, and definitely the greatest American player. Tony might be there with some more longevity, but to me that's incredible.
That's very impressive. Very impressive. That's and how does that feel when you have that happen? When you take on someone like that and you're victorious? I mean, you must have celebrated from that, correct?
Yeah. I didn't jump around like I did when I won the U.S. Open, but it's such a great feeling inside to just
did like you'd been there before, right?
Yeah. and just for me to be able to say that I played with the greats of the game and I competed at a high level with them, that's good enough for me. I know I only won 1 title in open doubles all my years of playing, but you got guys like, Terry, Tommy, Todd, Ryan Moore, Tony. They win sometimes 2 or 3 open events in one major tournament.
Right.
I won 1 in 30-something years of playing foosball.
Well, you still did it regardless.
That's more than I won.
Yeah,
that's one more than most of us won, right?
And foosball is big. Even though I don't play no more, I still follow it. And I went to a tournament in Kansas City about a month or so ago and seen some old friends, and it kind of something registered inside, and I don't know if I'm going to go ahead and try to go play again. I'll never play at that high level, but one thing I'd like to say, and I hope it doesn't bother nobody, but so I went to this tournament in Kansas City, and I hadn't seen Liz Hill and Shelley Langley, Christina Fuchs, Tommy. There was a couple other out-of-town people I hadn't seen in a while. But I want to touch on this for just a second. I quit playing because I couldn't play at that high level because of the wrestling. It took a toll on my body.
Right.
And my neck and back. And it's just, I couldn't play at that high level like I used to. And so I went to the tournament in Kansas City, and I'm watching Christina Fuchs play foosball. And I'm watching her get to the table. And I'm watching her with her hands with the arthritis, and I'm watching her play. And I'm thinking to myself, look at how she struggles to play with her health issues. And you don't play no more because of your back and your neck. You need to get out there and play. And because I played for the love of the game, but also played for the friendships, because made so many friends from playing foosball.
It's the family.
And I realized that weekend over there that I'm missing the point, that I need to get back out there. I'm not going to go to every tournament, but I need to go to a couple a year just to see the foosball family.
We'd love to see
Doesn't
it.
matter if I win or lose. Doesn't matter if I couldn't win an expert division. Just go play and have fun.
Right.
And that's what I'm gonna do.
That'd be awesome.
That's awesome. That
So
is amazing.
we have another caller. Mike, welcome to FoosTalk Live. You're on with Chris Dube.
What's up, Doobie? Legend Mike Green here, brother.
Hey, what's happening, buddy?
Welcome back.
Let me tell you something. I gotta say it. I had to call. Didn't interrupt your time on here, bro. But you're like one of my favorite players. There ain't a player alive ever had the heart that Chris Dube had.
Yeah.
If I had the heart of Chris Dube, I would have won 10 world championships.
Oh, you have a heart. Don't go there, man.
Now, he talks about how he never talked to the partner. I kind of remember a couple of times him telling me, dude, you can't block. Good thing Horde's got that friggin' pull shot because I destroy you, brother.
I remember when you come to Galaxy, man, we all loved you over there. And you remember we used to say, Puman.
Let me tell my yeah, I got to say it, man. You know, I'm a storyteller. I got to tell my Doobie story. I met Doobie young. And he's in our room, and he's trying to get our sponsor, Jim Dumas, to sponsor him. And he's flipping back and forth. You know how if anybody knows Doobie, they know how athletic he is. He's doing these flips back and forth. And that's back in the day when the windows were open. You could open them. Doobie lands on the ceiling of the window, the seal. We thought he was going over.
Oh.
And he says, do you remember that, Doobie? You said, dude, after that, you got to sponsor me, bro.
I think Chad Hansen was in that room, too.
Yeah. We were up to no good, man. It got a little wild, but I seriously thought Doobie went out the 15th floor, thought it was over.
Oh. Wow. We're glad you didn't. We're glad that didn't happen. Yeah.
But anyway, brother, I don't want to stay on here too long. I just wanted to tell you, man, nothing but mad respect for you. You're incredible. You're always one of my favorite guys. All you California guys. Anyway.
Yeah.
Have a great day, brother.
A lot of fun, man. I had good times with you. You were a lot of fun to hang out with.
Yeah, we definitely did that.
But yes, we did.
Mike, it's great to hear from you again on FoosTalk Live. How was your holidays, by the way?
Oh, it's always the same in Florida, man. You know, it's 75 degrees and we don't really wear a mask, so it's nothing really changed a whole lot for us.
All right.
It's all good in the hood.
Yeah, as long as you're good, man. That's key. That's key. Cool. So, Mike,
all right, guys.
Yeah. So we appreciate you calling in. Let's talk again real soon.
Good talking to you, Mr. Green.
Yeah, you too, man. Maybe if you decide to ever go out, man, let me know. I'll come out and hang out with you. We'll play one.
I'll tell you what, I'd like to come to Florida for a week just to visit.
Yeah.
Come to Florida State, man. And you'll hook up and we'll get beat like drums. We'll have a good time.
All right, buddy.
All right, bro.
Take care.
Thanks, Mike.
Nice talking to you.
You too.
So yeah, Chris, you are legendary. You know, this reminds me, one of our former guests here on FoosTalk Live told a story about you, and I want to get your side of it.
Okay.
So, story goes, this player was in an arcade, playing with a friend or two on foosball, and you walked in with a partner and challenged them to a game. I believe it was for money, and they beat you. So you said, okay, I want to play again for double or nothing. And they said, okay, we'll play it for double or nothing. And they beat you again. Then you're like, hey, listen, give me a chance to get even here. I want to play again. So they agreed. But this time you went outside and got your stool that I believe had your name on it and put on, I guess, a glove, and your partner put on a glove. And you whooped him bad.
Yeah, the oldest trick in the book, right? You know.
Is this true? Is this a true story? That's what I want to know. Is that
was that a Phil Slaver story?
It might have been. It might have been.
Nailed it. Yep.
Phil.
Well, your answer, sir. What would you say? What is your answer to that? Did that happen?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, I would. It would probably true. I don't quite remember it, but I'm sure Phil wouldn't lie about something like that.
Okay.
No, he might. Who knows? No, he wouldn't. And it totally rang true. Mark Torres usually joins us. Of course, he's a prominent member of the FoosTalk Live team. Not able to be here tonight, but a fellow NorCal. What are your memories of Mark Torres early on, or just your general impression of Mark Torres, who I know you know very well?
Well, Mark was, of course, a San Jose Fooser, and come up playing with Fernando and them guys, and he was a talented player. But we had a lot of them in the Bay Area. I didn't get to see Mark play a whole lot in the Bay Area because I had moved to Kansas City. I moved to St. Joe in '86. So I missed out on a lot of stuff. Galaxy was still rolling pretty good. And I did miss out a lot. But I mean, I do remember Mark coming up with Fernando and Serge. What a great group of players them guys are still from the San Jose area. Scott Stewart was from that area too, and Ken Lowe, Serge. There was a lot of good players. In Fremont, we were just 13 miles away, but it was like it was a Bay Area inner rival. Even though we went on tour, we all stuck together. We still had our little rival, San Jose and Fremont.
Interesting. Was there a specific player in your early days that you had a direct rivalry with? Somebody that you always felt like, I've got to beat this person every time, and they felt the same way about you?
Let's say, Scott Stewart was a pretty intense rival. Scott knew how to get under everybody's skin there. Adrian was a rival, but in a different way. Adrian was my best friend, still is, and I named my son after him. One of my sons after him, my youngest.
No kidding.
And Adrian's that's my best friend ever. And
yeah,
he's awesome. Just a great human being. And so Adrian was a rival, but he was a different kind of rival. And it was just, don't get me wrong, I still got upset when I lost to Adrian, but Adrian is different. It was Scott Stewart that was my big rival. I'll tell you a story that I'm not proud of. Okay, we're gonna tell some good stuff. Let's go to one that I'm not proud of. And so we're playing in a Bring Your Own at Galaxy, and I'm playing with Carl Anderson, who was kind of he's good player, but he spazzed out a lot. And we won the winners bracket. I really wanted to win this for Carl, and Adrian was playing with Darren Holland. And so anyway, we were getting double dipped. They were kicking our butts, and we're losing, but there was trophies for first place. So the last ball got behind Carl's goalie, and there was nothing he could do, and the ball was spinning, and it was going to go in the goal. It didn't matter what Carl would try to do; it was going in. And before it went in the goal, Adrian yells, "Yeah!" And the ball went in. And instead of reaching over there, remember, guys, I'm not proud of this. Instead of reaching over there, shaking Adrian and Darren's hand, I jumped off my stool and I ran to the counter and I grabbed one of them trophies and I threw it on the ground and broke it. Busted it up. I got kicked out of Galaxy. I got kicked out of Galaxy for life. I don't know how many times. Me and Donald Seligman.
Oh, right in the middle of the story.
Right in the middle. Chris, are you with us?
If history tells us anything, he'll be back in a second. But
there he is. Yeah, we just lost you for a second there, Chris.
Oh, okay.
Right after
you broke on the ground.
Yeah, you broke the trophy.
So after I broke the trophy, years went by. I got kicked out of Galaxy for life, and so, I felt horrible, of course. Adrian had forgiven me, but all the years went by. I never forgot it. I was a teenager. I was I might have been early 20s, 21, 22. It was before I moved here. And so I never forgot it. Never, ever forgot it. So on Adrian's 50th birthday a while back, I went through my foosball trophies that I had over the years, and I picked out a nice one, and I took the nameplate off it. And I went down to the trophy shop and I put first place, bring your partner 50-year birthday something like that.
Yeah.
And I put it in the mail, and I mailed it to him.
Nice.
Because
awesome.
all those years went by, and it still ate at me. And for his 50th birthday present, I wanted him to have that trophy that I broke years ago.
That's great.
So that's what I did.
Well,
I mean, it bothered me. I mean, and whenever I was a really fierce competitor, but I went overboard. That wasn't the only time, but that's the only one I want to talk about.
The only one you're willing to confess to. Okay. All right. Well, you made amends. It took a while, but you made amends, which is good. That we appreciate that.
I'm just not proud of that side of me. I was sometimes a little more than a fierce competitor. It was a bad sport, and that's not good.
Well, it's funny because there is a fine line, and I hate to quote the song by the Pretenders, but there's a fine line between love and hate. So there's a fine line between being competitive and, over the top.
Yeah.
So
what
do you draw the line?
And I think all of us at some point, and Dana Mard talked about me as a player back then, my head down, a hat on, focused and quiet. Well, I had my issues as well at times, where I'd go around the table here and there. We all did, and that's just a testament to how competitive it was. The 80s and the 90s, it was a different era.
Yeah. And Jim, I think you would have made a pro master status.
Oh,
we had similarities. We were darn good players, but we weren't elite players. But I believe you would have stuck with it. You would have made pro master.
Oh, thank you for that, Chris.
Yeah.
Appreciate that much.
You had a hell of a push kick. I remember Jim Stevens before he's famous Fooscaster. our Vince Scully.
There you go.
Thank you. That's the ultimate compliment. Thank you. Vince Scully was.
Oh, you are. I'm watching Tom Brady today, and here's one for you. Tom Brady is the Todd Lafredo of football.
Yeah.
Right.
Now,
right.
The Kareem Abdul-Jabbar of football.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, it's crazy in football. How can a guy play 20 years into his early 40s? Just phenomenal, and that is Todd Lafredo. Again, Lafredo's so remarkable that he'll be 60. He's 60 years old. He is 60 years old, and still an elite player.
And shoot the pull shot.
Exactly.
And well, really well.
Yeah, I mean, the 6 years. I mean, it'd be different if it was a rollover. Not that the rollover don't take energy, but the wrist, the wear and tear on the wrist, and him at 60 years old just still playing at such a high level.
So
unbelievable.
You mentioned earlier, the punishment that your body took once you switched it over to wrestling. What actually got into your profession? How did you get into professional wrestling to start with?
Well, I just, living in California, playing foosball and partying a lot, and I had jobs, but nothing. I didn't take education very seriously. I mean, foosball was my life,
right,
before wrestling. And then, listen, foosball was still my life. I was juggling both. I was playing on the tour, hitting the majors, and still wrestling.
Okay,
we wrestled 2 times at the Worlds. I performed twice at the Worlds, but I just knew that foosball wasn't going to make me a living, and working at a hardware store. Just listen, God put me here to entertain people.
Yeah.
So I used to watch wrestling, and when I got older, I realized it wasn't a real fight; it was entertainment.
Yes.
I won't use the fake word.
Oh, it's performance.
Because the injuries you get from it.
He did wrestle twice at the World Championships, and despite all the fans behind him, I think you lost both times, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Go figure.
But I still enjoyed it. But I realized, that I wasn't going to play pro basketball, pro football, and I seen other little guys on TV wrestling, and one of my buddies said, "Dude, you need to go try to be a midget wrestler." So WWF was at the Oakland Coliseum. I bought 2 tickets, and my buddy and I went, and I got a security guard, and he got me towards the backstage, and he said, "Wait here," and he brought out an agent named Red Bastine. And Red's a tall man. He was a famous wrestler and promoter in Northern California, very well known man in the business. So he looked me over and said, "Okay, wait a second, I'll go get somebody." So he brought out another little guy, and he asked me a bunch of questions, and I answered him. And he said, "Well, here's what you got to do. You got to move to St. Joe, Missouri, which is 40 minutes from Kansas City. You get a one-way ticket. I'll pick you up at the airport. I'll take you to my house. I'll put you up. You can live there. I'll feed you. I'll train you. If you make it, you pay me 10% every time I book you. If you don't, you just go back home.
Huh.
And that was August 4th, 1986. And I've been there ever since.
Cool. So he staked you. That's great.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
I mean, I haven't wrestled now since August of 2019. I don't know if I'll get back in there. I want to, but I don't think I don't know for sure yet.
You're kind of the Todd Lafredo of midget wrestling from 1986 through 2019. That's 33 years, buddy. That's
long career.
That's impressive.
Yeah, seen a lot of stuff, seen a lot of things. It was great.
What are some of the comparisons? I mean, you were a professional foosball player, professional wrestler. Were there comparisons? Obviously, we know the sports are a little different in a few different ways, but were there comparisons between the two things that you learned in foosball that you were able to translate over to wrestling?
That's a good question. Yeah, it helped me with, playing foosball in front of not always big crowds, but I drew some crowds, and then playing in the pits at big tournaments helped me when I started wrestling with the crowd, because a lot of times when you're first starting in wrestling or any kind of show business, the crowd intimidates you. You get nervous. I remember when I first started wrestling that a big crowd would make me nervous, but now after a few years in, it was just the opposite. A small crowd would make you more nervous. The bigger, the better.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But the foosball helped prepare me for that. No doubt about it. And just being a little guy, you're always entertaining somebody, whether you want to or not. The minute I walk out my door, I'm entertaining. I drive right now for a medical company. I take clients to their physical therapy appointments. I've been doing it now for over a year and a half. No more wrestling. I just drive people. And even with that being said, I'm not playing foos entertaining people. I'm not wrestling entertaining people. But even driving a van, I'm entertaining people.
Yeah.
You ought to see the look on these people's face when I hop out of this 8-seat passenger van to pick them up to their doctor's appointment.
Oh, that's great.
They can't even see me when I walk around because I'm not tall enough. And then when they see this little guy driving them, you ought to see the look on their face. I'm entertaining them.
So you're always the focal point. You are always kind of on stage, aren't you?
So Chris,
and you have to relish it. If you're my size, you got to relish it. Otherwise, you're going to be miserable.
So Chris, we have a listener who wants to ask you a question. I believe it's Ray Guns. In fact, he wants to know, Chris, have you ever thrown an opponent over the ropes?
Oh yeah.
Nightly.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's that?
And I've been thrown over. Yeah, I've been thrown over him also. Yeah.
Cool.
I don't know if you guys know, but one time I split my head open.
Ooh.
Wrestling 32 stitches.
Ouch.
So yeah, the wrestling part, it does take a toll on the body. That's for sure.
What's your favorite move?
You go. Oh well. I used to use martial arts when I was younger, so I used to love doing the head scissors and spin kicks.
Gotcha.
I was drop kicks. Yeah.
Do you watch?
Yeah, no one ever went around the table on Dube. I can tell you that.
I don't know about that. I remember one time Big Mark Pua was going to tear Scott Stewart and I up.
Really?
That's scary.
Then Casey told him that we cheated him in a Bring Your Own, that it was only supposed to be a 2 out of 3.
Oh.
And it was supposed to be 3 out of 5, but Casey was trying to stir up some stuff, and Marv thought we cheated him, and he called Scott Stewart and I out.
Oh boy.
And we had to sit on top of Scott Stewart's car on the hood. And Casey, the manager's peeking out the Galaxy door, and he's laughing. And I'm telling you what, Marv was so mad at us, he was almost in tears. We thought he was going to kill us.
Let me tell you, Tom. Mark Puha is the last guy you ever want to get mad.
Okay.
This is a man about, what was he, about 6 feet maybe.
Oh boy.
Both directions. He was 6 feet tall, 6 feet wide, Hawaiian. I had the largest largest calves I've ever seen on a man, right, Chris?
And so and so agile.
Yes.
So agile. Yeah, I mean,
sweetheart of a man, sweet
Oh,
man,
yeah.
very sweet. But if you got him mad,
Not good.
look out. Or if you got him drunk, because then we again became all of his toys.
Then he-
I remember.
Then
a
he do a
bar in
splash
Vegas.
on you.
Oh my goodness. Alaska, but also a guy that was a pull kicker and hit the ball. So when Marv hit a long pull kick, you heard it all the way across the room, didn't
Oh
you?
yeah.
No kidding.
Oh gosh, yeah.
What
Yeah.
were some of the you toured on tour, on the professional foosball tour, and then also with the midget wrestling tour, you kind of toured there as well. You'd go on the road. I'm assuming. Were there similarities in that you'd show up in a city? Maybe sometimes you didn't know exactly where you were, but were there similarities in the way that the two kind of happened in terms of a tour, city to city kind of thing?
That's what I enjoyed about it. I mean, they were similar on that. Get the two things that foosball and wrestling have got done for me is I've met so many nice people with both of them. You know, develop friendships with both, and then I've got to see big cities and different countries with both foosball and wrestling, and that's the similarities, and that's what I loved about both of them. I knew I'd love wrestling because I loved foosball and the traveling.
Yeah.
You know, it was right up my alley. But let me say something. I've touched on this before, Jim, and I won't harp on it very long, but you probably knew maybe this might come up. But so I've given my life to my family, but before I had family, I gave my life to foosball. Foosball is everything to me. I got first tattoo I ever got is on my thigh by my kneecap. It's a blue top foosball man.
Really?
Tournament soccer blue top man.
Cool.
But with that being said, I mean, two things in my life I give 100% for is both wrestling and foosball. My father, you know, in the Hall of Fame for wrestling, but and I don't think I'll ever make the Hall of Fame in professional wrestling, and I don't know if I'll ever make it in foosball.
After 30
but
years?
If you ask me which one I would rather be in, if I could only be in one, Hall of Fame, no doubt, hands down, it would be foosball.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I've done the wrestling for 33, 34 years. I've wrestled in Madison Square Garden 3 times. And I wrestled in the old Boston Garden, but foosball was everything to me. And if I ever got to go into the Hall of Fame, you would see a different side of me that you've never seen. It would just be so humbling, and just it means everything in the world to me.
Sure. Absolutely.
I'd take that over the Wrestling Hall of Fame any day.
You know, I'm an old school fan of the wrestling scene, and I remember as kids we loved people like George the Animal Steele and Rowdy Roddy Piper and Chief J Strongbow. Did you know any of those guys? You ever get a chance to hang out with those dudes?
Yes.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. What were they like?
Yeah. Nice guys. Most of them are. I mean, you're portrayed as somebody's got to be the heel, somebody's got to be the good guy.
Yes.
And most of the time the heels are really nice dudes.
Yeah.
And sometimes the good guys are the young prima donnas, and they can be a little arrogant sometimes, but yeah, for the most part, your heels are really nice guys.
You know, it's funny because things have changed so much. I mean, WWE is so corporate. It's so glossy. Has it changed on the inside as well?
You know what? I haven't been there so long. The wrestling business definitely changed. I'm sure it has.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure it has. But I'm like you. I love the old school wrestling where they didn't do all these flips all the time. They took an arm or a leg and they worked a hold and they worked the crowd. They could do a whole match, but just working one body part.
Yeah.
Do a quick spot, go right back to that body part. People believed. It was different.
Oh yeah. No, it was. We were just glued to it. We'd watch it every Saturday, and it was just,
it's an art.
Yeah.
It's an art. Some people are really super good at it. It's definitely an art.
Yes.
Selling's an art.
And George the Animal Steel apparently had a PhD. It was a professor.
Oh, smart man.
Yeah.
What a funny guy he was.
Yeah.
Oh, he is hilarious.
He looked like he was.
He was great.
Well, Chris, knowing you as I do, and knowing, learning more about you here tonight, you've led an amazing life. You really have.
Guess so.
And all of us in the foosball world are proud to have made your acquaintance and got to spend some time with you and watch you play. Tell us a little bit about where you are now, what's going on with you. You mentioned you had a family. Tell us a little bit about your family, where you are living now, and what life is like for Chris Dube these days.
Well, Jim, I just turned 58 on the 15th. I have 6 children.
6?
And one's up in heaven. She died several years ago.
Sorry.
She had a bad heart. She had a bad heart, but that kind of runs with our type of dwarfism in our family. Other dwarfs have other health issues, but our type, we have bad hearts. When I was younger, I had 1 surgery, and I was okay to play sports. I had to go to Children's Mercy every year, but I played sports all my life.
Okay.
But as it's gone down the line, my children have had worse. I got 6 kids, 3 midgets, 3 tall, and 3 midget girls. And of course, Brookie didn't make it through her second one. And then my daughter, one of my twins, Brianna, she's had one. And Sierra's up next, and they're 27.
Wow.
But I just live here in St. Joe, and I work for this company. And of course, with the coronavirus, last year I've never wrestled in Sturgis, and all the years, and they called me and they wanted me to come up last year, and I had to turn it down. I didn't want to be around a bunch of people biker week up in Sturgis with this coronavirus.
Right. Yeah. A lot of cases came out of there too. A lot of cases.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just work. I'm content with this job I got. I still get to interact with people every day, and
Is a temporary lull in the internet
he's
connection
getting phone
again.
calls as it's happening.
Right. Probably trying to hire him back.
What an amazing life he has led, though.
Yeah.
You really got to look at it and the accomplishments and 6
No
kids,
question. 6 kids. I mean, I always wonder about that these days. I mean, my family had six I had 6 siblings, but I gotta wonder, that's pretty pricey to have 6 kids these days. It's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
There he is.
There
All
he is.
right, you're
Welcome back. Yeah.
Right.
He just disappeared briefly.
I don't know what happened.
But no, how does that go? I mean, you have 6 children. I mean, that's a lot of responsibility, first of all. But second of all, I mean, your wife must be a fierce competitor as well.
Well, guys, I wish they were all with the same lady.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Never mind.
It's all right. Hey, it happens.
Well, no, it is something that's a remarkable legacy. No question about that.
Yeah, and your legacy in foosball, certainly, no one's ever going to forget you. No one's going to ever forget that weekend in Minneapolis, or that run with Chuck Pistol, which was exciting, super exciting. That was really the story of that weekend.
Jim, not to interrupt you, but one other one that was Dan Casey. Who he was, the manager there at Galaxy. We were novice players, and we went to the 82. What was that? Pro Build Worlds in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And I looked it up a little bit ago before I got on air with you. But so we were novice, and we went there thinking we were going to win novice doubles. And so Friday night was novice doubles, and we had to play a match about 132, and we got put out by Aaron Gilmore, and I forget who he was playing with. So we couldn't stay at the hotel that night because they were overbooked. We had to start staying there on Saturday night. So after we lost, got our luggage up from the bell captain and had to go down the escalator, and I was pissed, and I threw my suitcase down the escalator, and it went all the way down the escalator, got to the bottom, and it opened up. My clothes went everywhere, and Casey started laughing. He thought it was hilarious. So the next day we play open doubles, and we played Evan and novice that night too. We had never beaten Evan, no matter who we played with. If he played with Drexler or he played with Eden, We couldn't beat Evan.
Huh.
So the next day we entered open doubles, and we went to.
There's another drop. It's a lovely phenomenon with this this application we make use of, but it is the internet, is it not?
Yeah, it's what we're.
Can you hear me?
There you
There
go.
he is.
There you go. Got you back.
You're Evan. You go to open doubles. Yeah.
So we where was I again?
You're just throwing your suitcase down the
luggage. You played open doubles on Saturday.
Yeah, so we beat that night. We went to bed open doubles, fifth or better. We beat Evan in open doubles, first time we ever beat him. Then we beat Belts and Bednar, and we beat a couple other good teams. And then so we were sitting fifth or better Saturday night. Sunday, we opened up for play for third or better. We had to play Elwood, Macacao, McQueenie, and they beat us. And then we were playing for fourth, and we had to play Lot and Furry. And we had Johnny, Lot, and Furry 4-3. I don't know if it was 3 out of 5 back then or not, but we had them last game 4-3. I had maybe three shots, maybe 4. Afterwards, Lot told me if you would have tried any kind of middle, you would have won. And I did. I tried a dot shot, middle split at the big dot. I tried a couple middle dinks, but Johnny, you know how he moves on his defense. He just reacted and he got a piece of it. And I didn't hit the dot shot, the split on goal, but it was there. And he was right. If I would have hit a split, we could have beat him. But man, we got 5th in open doubles at the Worlds, and I was just, 19 years old. I was a novice player.
Jeez.
That was pretty cool.
That was my year as well, 82, U.S. Open as a novice. I finished third in open doubles in L.A. on that Pro Build tour as well. So, Chris and I, contemporaries, it's been amazing spending some time with you here this weekend, or tonight, rather. And I hope to see you out on tour. You mentioned earlier you want to get out there a little bit. Once we resume the tour, we'd love to see you, love to hang out, love to have a beer with you.
Yeah.
No, I don't drink no more.
Okay. How about a club soda?
Yeah, that'll work. That'll work. I want to get one more quick thing about the Bay Area. We had, Jim, I don't know, did you guys have a lot of good goalies in Southern Cal, or was it a lot of forwards?
Mostly forwards, a couple of goalies, none of whom really, of note. Not like some of the guys you produced up north, but we
did have some pretty good goalies. Yep. Steve Corioso, he was one of my favorite partners too. He was such a darn good goalie.
Yep.
Really good goalie.
Yeah, Dana, of course, as well. Dana Marr.
Oh, yeah, outstanding. And Tom Phippen. You remember Tom Phippen?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, Tom was pretty good too. Yeah, yeah.
No, that was a lot of fun. Those California days, with up in NorCal and in LA, and then down in San Diego, where Evan Stachlik and Eden Stachlik and eventually Terry Moore were produced, and Drexler, of course, Dan Drexler. It was really a great time for foosball in California.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Evan's 5 was so awesome. He gave me a nice pointer one year. I always looked up to his 5 rule, and I said, "Man, your 5 rule is so awesome." I said, "Can you give me a pointer?" And he said, "Dude," he goes, "your 5's good." He goes, "But I just got to tell you something." And he showed me. He goes, "You can pass your brush series on 3 different spots once you get in contact with the ball." And he showed me the 3 spots, and I always passed on the same spot every time. So he gave me a pointer. He said, "Dude, you always pass on the same spot. You got to pass on different spots." And I never forget that, because Evan's 5 bar was it was fun to watch. It wasn't fun to defend, but it was pretty fun to watch.
Evan was smooth, wasn't he? He was just so quick,
and
so smooth, and so athletic on that 5 in particular. The 3-row sometimes could come and go for him, but the 5 was always there for Evan, and also a good goalie and a good guy. And of course, he worked with me for so many years in the Inside Foos booth.
Very good, and very good. Yeah, I love listening to him talk, analyze. Yeah, very good.
Well, Chris, thanks for coming through for us just in this last day or so, and we're glad you did. And again, as Tom said earlier, you were on our very short list of people we really did want to talk to, and you haven't disappointed. It's been a very entertaining couple of hours spending with really the great Chris Dube, who But we miss you, buddy, and we look forward to seeing you out on tour.
I miss you guys too, Jim. You will. Thanks a lot for having me, guys.
Oh, you're welcome.
All
So Chris, I got to tell you, first of all, it's an absolute pleasure meeting you, and it's something I can't wait for the opportunity to meet you in person. But listening to you guys reminisce about those days, you know what it leaves me with? Well, not just pride, but envy. I envy you guys. It's like, oh my God, what it must have been like to be in those days and watch those kind of players, and you guys, of course, right up there in the thick of things, competing. That must have been amazing.
Yeah,
it was good times for sure.
Yeah,
times I'll relish for till the day I die. Really,
right?
Yeah. A lot of fun.
We've now done 40 episodes and talking with a lot of the greatest players ever, or just people who have been around for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like to the man or woman, it's like the memories from the 70s, 80s, 90s are some of the most vivid of our lives, right?
Yeah.
I mean, those were special times. And Tom, I understand your envy of those, because I sort of envy the fact that, I don't have those. I have memories is all I have. But boy, were those special times. And we didn't always realize how special they were until we looked kind of back on them a little bit later on.
And definitely now what we're going through, you know.
Right. That's the whole
really
idea.
Puts things into perspective for sure.
And Chris, this is one of the reasons why Jim and I decided, FoosTalk Live is necessary, because COVID is keeping us from doing the thing we love to do most. So let's share our misery of
let's
not
talk
playing.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys keep doing what you do, man, because you're entertaining a lot of us, and we love it.
Awesome.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you for saying
that. Like I said, I don't play no more, but I try to keep up on the Foos. It's part of my life that'll always be. I mean, I still got a table down in my basement.
Oh, nice.
I play on it once in a while.
Oh, cool.
But yeah,
I was going to ask you that.
Love Foos.
Would you have a tornado?
Oh yeah, one of the older ones.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
I love playing pool. I'm pretty competitive in pool. I'm terrible, but it's got me hooked. I love it. It's a little slower pace game. It doesn't beat you up as much.
Right. Yeah. It's you and
wrestling.
You and Ezekiel Moore.
Oh,
get together. Yeah. Wow. Well, it's funny. It's always something with you. You're competitive, regardless of what it is you do, and you try to do it as best you can. So love that.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for joining us tonight, man.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Have a good week.
Oh, you bet.
You too, bud. We'll see you soon, man.
All righty, guys. Take care.
Take care. So,
right.
There you go. Little Kato, or Chris Dube, as we know him in the foosball world, joining us for FoosTalk Live. What an episode, Jim. Absolutely stunning.
It was fantastic. He was fantastic. And again, a walk down memory lane. And it seems like every week, for me, certainly as someone who has been around the sport for so long, I get to walk through memory lane, whether it was the late 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and now into the 2020s. And I'm fortunate.
Yes, you
to
are.
have been a part of the foosball family for as long as I have, and to experience so much of its history. And we've got a chance. And one thing, Tom, we have found out when we have guests like Little Kato, like Chris Dube, or Dana Marr, or Mike Green, or Don Shalafu, or Lewis Cartwright. These guys want to tell the stories.
Yes.
We don't have much problem getting them to answer questions or to talk.
True that.
We ask a question, we sit back and we listen, because these guys want to talk about what was really the most special time of their lives in many cases.
Yep.
And you can hear it tonight. A 33-year midget wrestler, a guy that could be in the midget wrestling or in the Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Oh,
certainly.
absolutely.
But he'd rather be in the Foosball Hall of Fame, because that's how much it meant to him. And what a great interview. What a great job by Chris Dube tonight.
No, we're very fortunate. It seems like in so many ways that this has gone so well, even though it's less than a year already with FoosTalk Live. But I'm looking forward to the future. And of course, you've got all these great memories, but Jim, we're going to have more memories to think about.
Yes, we
in the very near future.
Yes, there's great things coming. And one of the things we do envision down the road, once the tour resumes, is FoosTalk Live being a part of the tour on a Thursday night or a Sunday night or whatever.
Yep.
On site, in person, talking with the stars and with the stories of that event.
Being there as it happens.
When we actually have current events to talk about, right?
Yeah, we're raring to go. I've got my bags packed, by the way, but we'll see. It's with hopefully with the kinds of things that are happening right now, maybe more vaccines and of course more efficient delivery systems. Hey, let's get out there and do our thing.
That's right. And Mark Torres couldn't be with us tonight, but looking forward to having him with us next week, and also looking forward, hopefully, to Johnny Horton joining us on the show next week, which also should be pretty compelling.
Man. And how could you possibly, resist? This guy has he must have stories, and just can't wait to hear them. So,
great job by Dube tonight, though. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And again, getting to reminisce, but also getting to spend some time with a legendary player, a legendary midget wrestler, just a great all around guy.
So, Jim, I'm curious. What do you think? You think we should do this again next week?
Yeah, it's worth a try.
All right. If you insist. Hey, thanks for tuning into FoosTalk Live. We greatly appreciate your support, and we're looking forward to getting together once again. FoosTalk Live is a product of Foosball Radio and Inside Foos TV. All rights reserved. Our sincere thanks to 518 Prince, Foosball Clubs USA, Foosballers the Movie, and the United States Table Soccer Organization. Join us next Sunday for another episode of FoosTalk Live. In the meantime,
we'll see you foozin'.